Etty, you are pounding forth. Excellent. As always, you've come so far, and just flicking through these pictures, you're just doing excellently. Big pat on the back. Thank you, Etty. Okay, hi, so this time when I did my photo shoot, I made sure to shoot with a quicker shutter speed, but I still feel my pictures are not coming out so sharp. Is I can fix this, or is this the best I can get with the lens that I am using? What are you using? Are you using the cheap 50mm? Yes, so be aware of that. It's not that you can't nail it with that cheap lens, it's just that it's not as accurate. Pardon me. Light is very let me bring this closer so I hope you could hear me that before. Light is a very like intangible thing, so it does moves in all kinds of different ways and funny stuff. So with inaccurate lenses that aren't like very, very, very well done, which i.e. cheap lenses, which is what you have, you can get wacky things happen. The waves don't converge in the right places and stuff. It's all very advanced physics that I don't know anything about, but that can lead to not sharp pictures. They're just less accurate, meaning that sometimes they nail it and sometimes they don't. Whereas with the more professional equipment, and it doesn't have to be top professional equipment, but with more professional equipment, the cameras and the lenses, although you've got a good camera, it's not to do with your camera, you've got an 80D, but the lenses definitely make a difference. So even though, I mean, that's like as good as it gets with the lens. Like you do nail it more sometimes, but you can assume that's like a regular kind of effect that you get. Here again, this is also at 200th of a second. That could be that because the kid was moving. That for sure could be. It was at 200th of a second here. This is. No, I think the focus was really over here. It could be, again, 200th of a second is not a surefire. It's not surefire that it's going to be pin sharp. Yeah, you do have to, although I taught in the class that you don't have to be conscious, you do have to be conscious of it still, more so than like a 500th of a second. Obviously, it's a sliding scale. Anyway, so I still think that you'll definitely appreciate the difference if you get a different lens. However, I do not recommend that you get the more expensive 50mm lens. I really don't recommend you get that lens. I've had it for a long time. I've used it many times, and I find it, and everybody else I know who've used it have found it to be very inaccurate and kind of like moody, get into strops and it won't do what you want it to do. And inaccurate. So I don't know the advice would maybe get the 85mm, but then it's going to be very, very cropped in. It's going to be very difficult to deal with. Maybe do some research yourself, because you've got you've got yourself a crop frame camera, so you have to. Otherwise, I generally recommend the full frame, like the 5D Mark IV with the 85mm lens. But anyway, so you're going to wear that. Here you go. This is a great example of where the camera nailed it, where the lens nailed it. Okay, this really is. That's great. This is a little dark, the picture, but we'll get to that. And another is that again at 200th of a second. Try using a quicker shutter speed before you give up on the lens. Yeah, I don't think that. I think that also the shutter speed can be playing an issue in this. But anyway, let's jump into the homework. Okay. Here we go. So once in my final response to your question is your lens is an issue. You can only get so sharp with that lens, but the sharpness is fine. It's the moodiness. It gives it to you sometimes and other times it doesn't. So you are limited by your equipment a little bit. In regards to a fixing for that, I can't really recommend you what to do, because you have the crop frame camera, and I don't know the other options. There's maybe it's worth looking into non-Canon lenses, because as I said, the 50mm one up from that doesn't provide you anything better. So maybe it's a good idea to look into Sigma or Tamron, etc. Okay, let's have a look here, because this looks absolutely perfect. just having a look at these stats, this looks absolutely perfect. Let's have a look at how you did here. Let's bring up a notepad. Okay, move my face out of the way. Now you got a 1/250th of a second, 1/250 of a second at f2 at 200 ISO, and then you had for the next picture you got a 1/60th of a second at f5.6 at 400 ISO. And now the last picture you got was 1/30. This looks so good. I'm really excited about this. F11 at 800. Okay, let's do the math. Such simple math. So from a 2/50th of a second to a 60th of a second, it's a 1/125th, a 1/60th. So that is +2. Now you have, oh, my computer's in Hebrew for some bizarre reason that it always does this. Now, so that was +2. Okay, it's done it again. 2 to 5.6 is 2 for 5.6 is -3. Excellent. And 200 to 400 is +1. +2 -3 +1 equals 0. Correct exposure. Pat on the back, Etty. Okay, 1/60 to 1/30th. That is +1. Now a 5.6. Oh, silly computer. Oh, wait, go away. No. 1 second. Let's start again. Okay, so 60th to a 30th is +1. 5.6 to 11 is double, which means it's -2. Remember that little trick there for the aperture. And 400 to 800 is +1. Etty, you nailed it. Excellent. Big pat on the back. Oh, I did -8, yeah? Whatever, it was -1. Anyway, Etty, excellent. Really, that really is impressive. So many people messed that up. I had somebody do this the other day. They used a flash, and their flash on camera went off, and it was so bad. But you really did excellently. Okay. And look, we can see there's nothing moving, so we don't see any movement, but we can see obviously at f11 there's a longer depth of field, f5.6 a less, and at f2 a minimum depth of field. Really, hat off to you. Nice one. Okay, into the photo shoot. So just the overall feeling, I do understand what you're saying about the not sharpness. It would be annoying me a little bit. But I think that you should maybe be at 800 ISO and using or even like 640 ISO and being at 320 3/20th of a second, or just being very, very aware of your shutter speed, because there are people, it depends on physiology and how tight you hold the camera. I feel that the camera should be performing better, the lens should be performing better than these pictures. So try that and then we'll reassess it the next week. But there is for sure a difference between a $100 lens and a $1,000 lens, for sure. And there's lots of $1,000 lenses, and there's also lots of $100 lenses, and people buy the more expensive ones, professional photographers, because of the accuracy and the dependability of these products and the build as well. Okay, so let's have a look. It's a nice shot. We've got good distinction between the foreground, between the subject and the background. We've got a good movement coming this way. Okay. We've also got, I mean, this really is the movement coming this way. There's a slight movement moving this way from his body. Okay, this area is dead and not necessary. We can get rid of that. See, this black thing here, generally I avoid stuff like that. It can't be put to the bottom in 1 second. It needs to have a little bit of space over there. Yeah, it's fine. It's nothing special, but it's fine. I would avoid stuff like this generally in pictures. A big fat black post has very little graphic reason to take the picture. Very little graphic taste. That's the point. It doesn't add much to the picture. In fact, it takes away that kind of big black lump. Anyway, okay, here you're a little underexposed. Other than that, it's mama's great. We can bring that up a little bit with the highlights here, will make a difference. Yeah, that made all the difference. And I think, just to show you here, obviously a very strong triangle. What do we think about stats? Oh, did we mention stats here? So, this is a good proof for what we're saying, because at 200 ISO, everything else was 200 ISO, and the picture that was the sharpest was actually at 500 ISO. Forget all the ISOs I said. Was at all these other pictures are at 200th of a second, and this one, which is for sure the sharpest, was at a 500th of a second. So I think I would pay a lot of attention to that and be, number one, be more conscious when you're taking the picture to hold yourself steady, compose yourself, breathe properly, support your camera better, push it harder against your face, like we learned in class 3, I think. But yeah, and also try and get yourself that extra shutter speed, so giving yourself a bit more ISO. Obviously, you're always open as much as you can on your aperture, but giving yourself a bit more ISO, which will allow you to give you a little bit more shutter speed. Great triangle here, beautiful picture. Now that I brightened it up, this is a great shot, I think. I would probably crop a little bit off the top again and just try and make it a little bit more panoramic. Give it a little bit energy, a little bit more space downwards. That's a great shot. That is a great shot, Etty. Great shot. Pat on the back for the portfolio. So here's a little soft, like you said. It's annoying. I think it's to do with a little bit the lens, and I think it's also 200th of a second you have to be careful of. Now, this is a little awkward because I understand that you left this shape in here, but it really doesn't, the composition doesn't really work. It needs to be cropped off. It's a little bit too heavy. This line here, being so close to the edge of the canvas, creates a kind of an electric contraction, a tension for your eye, which means the image is falling back a little bit in this direction. Okay, so but I do understand that you can't really crop it out because it will look funny. But let's see. Yeah, I understand. You're in a perplexing situation with this picture. I would probably leave it like that, to be honest. But the truth is, anyway, it's not sharp enough to be taken seriously. Sorry about that. Okay, you cut the legs off here. Again, are we allowed to cut off feet and hands? The answer is yes. We're allowed to cut off anything we want, but we are not allowed to break lines. Okay, lines are not allowed to smash our eye into the edge of the canvas. Okay, boing. So give some more room down here. Again, the shutter speed, I think, is playing a factor in this. We can't see anything closer to us. Or maybe her hand. Yeah, you see, it's not. Her hand is also blurry, so the focus is probably a little bit off. But I think you need to hold your camera steadier. I mean, the picture's quite a nice moment. I would probably crop over here, but like I said, that is very distracting. It could be that if we were to crop closer, now it would be less distracting. Yeah, it is less distracting because we've got this line here of her pants that are, of her shorts, whatever, that are keeping us in. Do you understand? This is a great example of where you can cut off legs, because we have a line that is stopping our eye from going bang into the bottom, so we end up with an actual, the actual path around comes more like this. It could be you went in that direction, but this is the path, and those lines of the trunks of the shorts there help your eye move along. Okay, this is a nice shot. It's not comparable to this. That's a great shot. That really is a great shot. It's not pin sharp. Okay, that would definitely add to it if it was pin sharp. It definitely needs some work in Lightroom. It's very boring. The colouring is boring. He's looking upwards. It's nice. It's nothing. Again, it's nothing to write home about. We've got a decent triangle over here. it's you know, good separation from foreground, background. Stats would be perfect if you could hold yourself steady. But generally those are good stats. Those are perfect stats. But I think you need to be quicker or more conscious, like we said. But good. Okay, let's have a look at. Well, you said it's interesting because let's have a look at this. What I did in Lightroom there. Look at that. How quick that was. All I did was just put up the highlights. Just put up the highlights. Now let's look at how complicated that would be to do in Lightroom. Let's have a look. Just to show you that occasionally, even sometimes for editing, occasionally Picasa wins over Lightroom. Definitely for logistics, Picasa kicks Lightroom. But occasionally, even in editing, occasionally. So now, putting up the exposure doesn't really do that. Okay, let's put up the highlights. See, it doesn't also quite do that. Now to put up the whites now, that's really where we wanted it. And then I think to raise up the, see, I would now bring out the, just to lighten this area a drop. And I think I want to crop a bit. Do I need to darken it? I don't think so. I don't think so. So let's have a look. In Picasa, I did like this. And now let's see the difference between not much difference, but you could see it took quite a lot longer on Lightroom to obtain the same effect. So I was just trying to show you how occasionally it can be that lightning, especially in Picasa, can actually be better sometimes than in Lightroom. I do believe that the programs should both be used. Okay, using Picasa to delete and maybe crop, and then using Lightroom then to do the editing, like the more intimate, effective editing. For sure, Lightroom kills Picasa, incomparable. But the logistics of Picasa, in my opinion, override Lightroom. Okay, Etty, you did really, really well. I'm really impressed by how far you've come, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you do for us next week. Okay, all the best. Keep up the good work.